and I will call it edit.php. All right, welcome back, everybody. Okay, so we have one more episode to complete our first Notes CRUD app, or resource if you like. And then after that, we can move on to sessions and authentication, which should be a lot of fun. Okay, so let's dig in right now. If I switch to my browser, here's our Notes section. And yeah, we can create an example notes, and that works fine. We can view all of them. We can view a specific note. We can delete a note, but yeah, we can't yet edit and update a note. And that's what we will do in this episode. All right, so let's go into our browser and yeah, let's do this. Maybe we can actually, if I switch back real quick, maybe we can reuse this form here. Okay, so this is the create page. So I will go into views, notes, create, and I'm going to copy and duplicate this, and we will call it edit.view. Okay, so now if I go into, actually, let's start at the route level. Let's say listen for, let's grab this one right here. Listen for /note/edit, and that will load a controller called notes/edit. All right, that's our next step, create the controller. So once again, let's take something we already have and duplicate it, and I will call it edit.php. And yeah, at least initially to make sure this is working, I often do this. Let's just echo hello and see if we get anything in the browser. Okay, so let's give this, actually, let's go into a specific note and then update the URI to be note/edit. All right, and sure enough, we are hitting that controller. Okay. and see if we get anything in the browser. Okay, so let's give this, actually, let's go into a specific note and then update the URI to be note/edit. All right, and sure enough, we are hitting that controller. Okay, so let's switch back. And yeah, let's think about what we need to do. We want to load a view to edit an existing note. We've already created that view. The heading will be edit note. And yeah, let's just leave it like that, come back and refresh the page. And there we go. Okay, so now, of course, I need a link to edit that note. So maybe when we show it, yeah, possibly right down here, we will add an edit link. Okay, so let's go into Views, Notes, Show, and here's where we delete the note. But you know what? We might even move that to the Edit section. Let's hide the sidebar. But yeah, right here, we'd have something like an anchor tag. Like an anchor tag that will go to note/edit, and we'll call it edit. That to the edit section. Let's hide the sidebar. But yeah, right here, we'd have something like an anchor tag that will go to note/edit, and we'll call it edit. Okay, it's not going to look pretty, but if I give it a refresh, there we go. Okay, so yeah, ideally I'd like, well, let's think about this actually. Maybe when I click on the edit link, here is where a delete action should be located. So if that's the plan, I can switch back here and delete this. Or actually, I'll copy so we can save it for later, and then I will remove it from this view. Okay. Next, why don't we do, let's add a footer and add it here, and then add a little margin top. And then why don't we style and I can switch back here and delete this. Or actually, I'll copy so we can save it for later, and then I will remove it from this view. Okay. Next, why don't we do, let's add a footer and add it here, and then add a little margin top. And add it here, and then add a little margin. Top. And then why don't we style this as a button? So maybe we'll give it, I don't know, a text gray 500. Yeah. And then I'll do a border of the current color. So a border that is also gray of 500. And I'm sorry, I should also just come along for the ride if you're not familiar with Tailwind. So we have a border And then I'll give it some padding on the left and right, and a little less on the top and bottom. And then we'll make it rounded. And yeah, maybe a little less padding. And yeah, just something simple to get us going. Okay, so now if I click on this, we can edit. And yeah, just be a little less padding. And yeah. Then we'll make it rounded. And yeah, maybe a little. Less padding. And yeah, just something simple to get us going. Okay, so now if I click on this, we can edit the note. But yeah, really this isn't right, of course, because I don't see the note here. So if I'm editing a specific note, I have to fetch the specific note. And to fetch a specific note, I need to know what note we are working with. So just like when we show a note, when I click on the edit link, we need to include the ID of the note that we wish to edit. So again, right now we are passing that through as part of the query string. So we'll do something like this, note ID. And let's give that a shot. Okay, come back, give it a refresh. And now when I click on the edit button, there we go. We are editing a note, and specifically the note that has an ID of 39. All right, next step is to track that. Specifically the note that has an ID of 39. All right, next step is is to track that down. So we will go into our edit controller. And yeah, actually, if you want, we can just steal some of the code we wrote in the show action. So stuff like, really, a lot of this. Because yeah, if you think about it, so much of your controller action logic revolves around finding things, validating things, authorizing things. So they will often be somewhat similar. So I'm going to paste all of that in, and notice my editor will automatically import those classes. But if you're in something like Visual Studio Code, you might have to do that manually. Okay, so let's see. We're going to track down the corresponding note. That should all be the same. If we couldn't find the note, then we abort with a 404. We then authorize that the current user, which we're still hard coding for one more episode, we're authorizing that that user has access to view and edit this note. Because otherwise, if we didn't have this, then anyone could access that edit URI to tweak your note, which of course we don't want to allow. So we have to implement authorization at every level here. Okay, otherwise, if we did find the note, we can pass that through here. Okay, cool. So now if we go to the edit, edit action, think about it. Where we have the text area, right here, I can replace this with the body of the note. So note body of the note. I can the edit action. Think about it. Where we have the text area, right here, I can replace this with the body of the note. So note body. All right, cross your fingers, come back, give it a refresh, and there we go. Okay, but now think about it. What if I change my mind and I want to cancel? Well, I probably need a cancel button right here. Okay, so let's go back to our editor. And let's see right down here. And you know what? It looks like when we used that Tailwind layout, they already had some nice styling for a button. And again, I know this is a big mess, and you might think, why would you ever want to repeat this over and over? Don't forget, when you're actually building applications, there are ways to isolate these things. You could extract the button into its own component. You could create a dedicated CSS class like button where you apply all of these. There are many different ways to tackle these things. But again, utility classes and Tailwind just aren't part of this series. But we have plenty at Laracast if you want to learn more. So anyways, right up here, why don't we duplicate this, but swap it out to an anchor tag. And then I'll duplicate this, but swap it out to an anchor tag. And then I'll say this will take you back to all of the notes. And then we'll just say cancel. And then the only thing I want to do here is change the background to gray of 500. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, just something like that. And you know what? Why don't will take you back to all of the notes, and then we'll just say cancel. And then the only thing I want to do here is change the background to gray 500. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, just something like that. And you know what? Why don't we even add a little more of a gap? Add a little more of a gap between those items. Yeah, and then let's just do justify end. So I'm just applying a display of flexbox. I'm pushing all of the items to the end of the row, and then I'm adding a little gap between each of the children, and then we get something like that. Okay, so now if I click on cancel, it takes me back to viewing all of the notes. Okay, perfect. So yeah, you can see now we have a little inconsistency because we created our dummy styling for that button. So what I'm going to do is copy all of that, go back to our show view, and then I will update this so that we can be a little more consistent. Perfect. Okay, so now think about it. Update this so that dummy the children, and then we get something like that. Okay, so now if I click on cancel, it takes me back to viewing all of the notes. Okay, perfect. So yeah, you can see now we have a little inconsistency because we created our dummy styling for that button. So what I'm going to do is copy all of that, go back to our show view, and then I will update this. So that we can be a little more consistent. Perfect. Okay. So now think about it. When I make a change here to the notes, well, I should be able to save, or why don't we instead call it update? So right here, we can say update. But when I click on that, what should happen? Where should the form submit? Okay, well, again, if we're following RESTful conventions, let's have a look. We're going to go into our routes file. And yeah, right here, we could say, well, if we make a patch request to a specific note, that should update it. So why don't we do this? Router, listen for a patch request to /notes, and that will hit a controller called update. Okay, and this will be our last resourceful controller. We'll call it update.php. And once again, we are just going to say updating to confirm that we are hitting this controller. I do this all the time. Are we actually hitting this file or not? It's just a small little step that can save you some time. Okay, so let's make sure that when we edit a note and we submit the form, right up here, it submits the appropriate request. It's now going to visit /note. And remember, browsers do not support patch and delete requests, and you can see it's not going to allow that. But as we learned a number of episodes ago, we can now sneak it in by creating an input that is hidden, that has a unique name of _method, and a value that is equal to the request type that we actually want our code to treat the request as. So in this case, I'm saying, all right, well, I actually want you to treat this as a patch request. Our router will detect this and then route accordingly, right? So let's see, I think this is probably right. Let's come back to the browser, give it a refresh, and click Update, and there we go. We have responded to that patch request. And loaded the appropriate controller. Cool. Okay, so now let's think about it. What needs to happen here when we hit this controller? And why don't we write it out as comments? Well, first, let's find the corresponding note, right? Then maybe authorize that the current user can edit the note. And then we should probably validate the form. So for example, if you try to edit the note, but maybe you don't include anything or you include too much, well, that should trigger a validation error, in which case we should return here and provide you some feedback. Okay, so validate the form. And then if no validation errors, update the record in the notes database table, right? These are basically the steps that we need to do here. Okay. Let's get going. And once again, I can steal some of this code that we have here. So let's go into Updates. Find the corresponding note. So we have that right here. Do here. Okay, let's get going. And once again, I can steal some of this code that we have here. So let's go into updates. Find the corresponding note. So we have that right here. Select Start from Notes for the ID, but yeah, in this case, we have a post request. So maybe we should pass through the notes ID as part of the form. That would be one way to do it. Okay, so if that's the case, we need to return here and add another hidden input called ID, where the value is equal to the ID of the note that we wish to update. Again, this is one way that we could tackle it. Later, I'll show you how to include the identifier as part of the URI. But for now, we'll keep it as a hidden input. Okay, so back to our controller. Try to track down the note. Let's then authorize that the current user can edit the note. So once again, authorize that the note's user ID equals the current user ID. Next, we want to validate the form. So we will create a list of errors, and then let's just show you right here. Where we did it a number. Once again, authorize that the note's user ID equals the current user ID. Next, we want to validate the form. So we will create a list of errors, and then let's just show you.